Hello and welcome to Cup to Hook movie night. I'm gonna give this a minute, see if we get some people coming on here. We're gonna be looking at Longmire, season 2, episodes 2 and 3. I'm getting my little crochet project ready to work on as well. Hey, Roseanne. Hey, Jen. My girls are all coming on. I missed this so much last week. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, don't get me wrong. Women of Joy was great, but excuse me, I still missed you guys. So while we're waiting for everyone to come on, I had sent we had talked about whether or not to keep doing it, question, or to do it more as a discussion. Hey, Janice. And I got more feedback about doing it more as a discussion. So I thought tonight we'd kind of give that a try, if that's okay with you guys. So what do you think about doing it as a discussion? And after tonight, if you don't like it as a discussion, we can go back to having the Q&A. Did everybody get a chance to eat? All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. You guys got your projects you're going to work on? I'm going to keep working on the baby blanket that I am currently making from the Crochet Society stay-at-home box. All right. So, episode 2. Let's take a look here. Starts off with Holly, and she is cleaning up roadkill. And what did you think about that when Walt told her, told Vic that she should appreciate that because it used to be the deputies that used to do it? I thought it was funny too. All right. And they mention, or Holly mentioned, right? Yeah. I would definitely be thankful for someone else doing it. That would not be my cup of tea. Hey, Grandma Anna. So glad you're here with us. And just a real quick recap. We talked about doing tonight more like a discussion versus the Q&A, because the feedback that I was getting was to try the discussion. And so we're going to give it a try. And if it works, great. And if not, then we'll go back to Q&A next week. And I do apologize for those that were not on with me earlier. I have been a little bit sick and under the weather this week, so I'll try not to cough too much. I've got some hot tea that I'm drinking. I've got some water, and I've got some orange juice even. So hopefully that'll keep us straight. All right. So Holly said that people were constantly riding by and checking her and the place out because of an article that was written. But I never heard what the article was about. So what is your thoughts on that? Hey, Noni May. Thank you for coming to join us. So what do you think the article was about? Because I never heard them say specifically what it was about. But she said that there was people constantly riding by just trying to look at her. Okay. I'm getting probably the carcass cleanup. I don't know, Roseanne. Do you think it would be about what happened to her? Because she really thought that she was the only one who knew. I apologize. I will call you HD. Gotcha. Okay. So anyone else have any thoughts on what the article could have been about? It would make sense that it was on her cleaning up all the roadkill. Love you, HD. Thank you. So I thought that was interesting. All right. The next little note that I jotted down was when Walt had gone to see Henry at the bar, and he brought up Thanksgiving and why Henry didn't sell turkey because of Thanksgiving and the Indians. I thought that was kind of funny. Mimi said Noni May called. Oh, got you. Okay. Okay. My misunderstanding. Thank you for correcting me. Okay. All right. So what did you think about the place that supposedly was it Ross? Make sure. Yeah, Ross was going to for the burgers. He wasn't going for the burgers, we found out. All right, so Grandma Anna's educating us here. Yes, excuse me. A turducken is a turkey stuffed with a duck and the duck stuffed with a hen. And there was only one place that was selling those burgers. And yes, it was a good front because obviously more adult things were going on. Yes, Grandma Anna, prostitution. So, and I think I listed it back here, but what did the girls know about Ross? What did they say about him? Was he one of their favorite clients? Yeah, he stunk. They said he smelled like tar. He was rough. Yeah. How did they identify him? How'd they know? Because one girl said she didn't see something, so she didn't know that it was him. he worked on the road crew. That's why he smelled like tar. But they said that they could identify him by his brown truck. All right, let's see here. What did y'all think about the scene where Vic had bought Walt a phone and gave him the phone? Yeah. All right, so y'all, Walt and his humor. And that's what I wrote down. That she said he should have bought one for himself. And he was like, why? I'll just use yours. So I love the humor. All right, what did y'all think about the conversation between Henry and Branch about Katie? When Branch showed up at the Red Pony and was talking to Henry and asked him if he had heard from Katie or if he knew where she was. And Branch was like, yeah, put him in his place. And Branch was like, would you tell me if you heard from her or where she was? And Henry was like, no. So what did you think about that? That's right. He says, I will not. Walt said he hasn't known where Katie is for a long time. Well, why do you think Henry wouldn't tell Branch if he heard from her? What was your thoughts on that? Or were you even surprised that Henry responded that way? Okay. So some of the answers are maybe he doesn't want him to date her. Henry didn't like their relationship. Maybe it would look like he was taking sides. Those are all good answers. Well, I think Henry is also very overprotective of her because he's known Walt her whole life. And so, yeah, I think he is protective, but he does keep saying to Walt even, she's a grown woman. You need to let her live her life. Even when it came out that Branch and Katie were in a relationship. So I don't know, maybe Grandma Anna, maybe you're on the right track that he didn't want to make it look like he was taking sides. And then also because he knows Katie so well, maybe he figured when Katie's ready, she'll let everybody know where she's at and what she's doing. Because again, he keeps, saying that she's a grown woman. All right, let's see. Any idea where Katie is? Of course, we find out at the end of the episode where she is. She's actually in Denver. And we'll talk in a little bit more why she's in Denver. Let's see. I apologize. I just mixed my papers up. Okay. All right. So we learned about Holly and her connection to Ross. And boy, that was quite a way she handled getting around to admit to Walt that she knew Ross. And as we learned, yes, Grandma Anna. Okay, let me see. Let me back up here a minute. All right. So Jen says, I figured she was looking for answers about her mom. And then Grandma Anna says she went to talk to Fales. Yes. And so that's what I figured too. She was really, really upset with Walt for keeping it from her, the truth. And I agree. After Fales left, she followed Fales to go find out about her mom and what happened. But this is the thing. She's been gone a pretty long time. So I don't know if maybe she had to go somewhere and reflect and build up the courage, because she apparently didn't go to Fales right away, because when you look at the mail that Branch went through on the inside of her apartment, that was a huge pile of mail. And I mean, that looked like weeks of mail. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I would have thought she'd have followed right away after Fales, but when you look at the pile of mail, I mean, that was a lot of mail. So, I don't know. Maybe, Roseanne. Maybe. Maybe they will show us. All right. All right. So flipping back to Holly, why do you feel like Walt felt like she wasn't a suspect? Because remember, her and Branch were kind of going back and forth. And so let's talk about why Walt felt like Holly wasn't a suspect and why Branch felt like she was. I agree, Roseanne. All the evidence was pointing to her. But Walt was like, you got to make sure you have all the facts before you arrest her. And I think I actually asked this question in the next episode. Right, including her car with dark windows. That's a good point. You know, Branch is fighting against Walt for the position of sheriff. But one thing I've noticed about Walt is he thinks things through, and it seems like he's very knowledgeable about a bunch of different things. About, like, he really truly knows the people in his county. And like, I don't want to get into it too much, but even like with the next episode, he knew that these people migrated to be sheep herders. And I mean, even like with Holly, he'd known her for a long time. I mean, do you think that Branch has that same kind of knowledge and wisdom that Walt seems to display about the people of the county and about like why they're even there, like when they came, you know, about the culture? I mean, I don't either. Yeah, he doesn't jump to conclusions. And I don't think Branch has all that experience. And so I don't know. It's just one thing I've just started picking up on the more episodes we watch, that Walt just seems to, because he's always able to explain things for Vic and for all the deputies. And he's able to bring knowledge to light that otherwise, we wouldn't gain if he wasn't, a character in this whole storyline. Yeah. And I do agree with you, Roseanne, that Branch is trying to prove a point to his father. Deep down, do you think Branch really even wants to be sheriff? Or do you think it's just about, kind of pleasing his dad? I agree. I think he's just trying to be in the good graces of his dad, but I don't really feel that Branch wants to run against Walt. But I do think, can anyone hear me yet? Are we still buffering? Okay, I've got Roseanne back. Got Grandma Anna back. Let's see if we've got Jen or Janice. HD. Do I have you guys back? Oh, Jen's back. Okay. Hopefully we'll get everybody coming back. All right, so we were talking about Branch versus Walt being the sheriff. And I think we're all pretty much in agreement that he's really doing it to kind of please his dad. All right. Let's see. And the next note I had a kind of a question mark about, well, whose car did he get in? Because they made us think it was the neighbor's car. But of course, at the end, we learned whose car it was. And it was Holly's son's car. So talk to me about Brandy Collette. Talk to me about her PTSD. What did you think about that part of the story? Yes, she did 2 tours. Roseanne says, "Woo, wow, explosives." Very realistic. So they had us going there for a short time that they were the suspects. Before you learned who actually was responsible for killing Ross, yes, very realistic. Did you believe that it was the neighbors? Did you believe it was the Collettes? I did too, but I also, in the back of my mind, said this is too easy. So I felt like there was going to be someone else, but it was not who it ended up being. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I never know, but haven't figured it out yet. So Jen, are you saying you don't know who killed Ross? Oh, you're saying, okay. Yes, too easy. I did too. I felt like it was just too, I don't know, easy. Because I know that the husband talked about how he would, you know, kind of come on to his wife and stuff. And then, I don't know, then with the PTSD, it was just kind of like throwing things. But in the end, I thought, excuse me, ladies, that's what I was going to say, Jen. In the end, I still in the back of my mind kept thinking, well, maybe it's Holly. You know, I felt like the picture they were painting for us with Brandy was, yes, she's got PTSD. She has these violent, you know, blackouts. But I still felt that it was just still too easy. And so I kept thinking the whole time, it's got to be Holly. It's got to be Holly. I immediately ruled out her husband and her son because she said that they didn't even know. But boy, was I shocked later. Especially when they mentioned that her 38 wasn't registered. I was like, yeah, it's got to be her. But then again, I felt like that's too easy too. So, especially in the beginning when Walt looked down at her when they're at the carcass pile and he sees the gun in her holster and she's like, oh, this is a 40 and it's registered. But then when they talked about the 38 that they found under her bed, I thought, So she was trying to throw him with the 40, but, or 45, whatever. But I don't know. But then again, why would she bury him on her property? But the thing is isn't she the one who called to let them know she found the body? Because isn't that how they got there? Was she was burying the carcass and found it? So, but then again, you know, maybe thinking if I call and report it, then they won't look at me. Jen says she thought it was planted. Let me see. I figured once I knew she was raped that a child from that rape was likely. Well, you're smart, Grandma Anna. I didn't even think about that. And I don't know why I didn't think about that. Maybe I'll just blame it on not feeling well. And so I did in my notes, I put Holly's rapist is dead on property. There's the weapon. It's hers, found under the bed. And then I drew an arrow and put too easy. Yeah, it still seemed too easy. All right. So let's talk a minute, because switch is over, about Branch and Walt. And when Branch tells Walt, okay, so you don't think Holly did it, then if you're not going to solve the murder case, then how about we talk about a missing person case? And of course, they're referring to Katie. At that point, did you think that Walt knew where Katie was? And was just keeping it from Branch? That was sly. Jen says no. Roseanne says I did. Grandma Anna says I thought he knew. Jen says he didn't know she was gone. Sneaky. Because he had them tell him if they mention Henry's name. Wait a minute, what? Because he had them tell him if they mention Henry's name. My thought was, I think Walt knew that she left, especially because she kept saying, well, that's another burden you won't have to carry or deal with. But I don't think he knew where she went. Because if he knew where she went, I think he would have gone after her. Grandma Anna, you're right. Walt did know that Fales was looking into his wife's death because, after all, he came and told them that he found the guy. He had the guy. So since we're doing this as a discussion, hey, Sylvia. You're so welcome. And we do hope that you're feeling better and that you get better. So even if Walt knew where Katie was, and of course he doesn't, do you think he would have told Branch? Or I guess the question I'm asking is, what are your thoughts about how Walt even feels about their relationship? Because he's not really talked a lot about it. I see where you're saying that, Grandma Anna. Right, but Walt asked to be let known if Henry's name was mentioned after he knew Katie left. And yeah, I don't think he would have told Branch. I think he's not 100% sure about their relationship. He doesn't care for Branch, so he doesn't like their relationship. I agree with that. Professionally, he needs Branch on his team, but personally, he does not see Branch as a proper suitor for his daughter. Coming back to you, Grandma Anna, I'm trying to figure out if you're talking about Detective Fales. Hey, Deborah. And we agree with you, Deborah. He wouldn't tell Branch. He doesn't trust him. So, Grandma Anna, I'm trying to figure out if you're talking about Detective Fales, if Detective Fales mentions the name, mentions Henry's name. If you will, clarify that for me just a little bit. All right, so when it comes to Holly and her son, his name was Dacus. Why do you think Walt made Dacus tell his mom that he knew about the rape? Why do you think Walt put him in that position? Why didn't Walt just tell her that her son knew? Why do you think Walt made Dacus tell his mom? After Walt knew Katie was gone, he had a good hunch where Katie has gone. He then speaks to someone on the phone and asks to be informed if Henry's name came up. You are right. But we did never find out who he was talking to, did we? I don't know why Walt made him tell his mom. It's bad enough that he had to know. And as we find out later, he finds out that he is Ross's son. Unless at that point Walt knew that Dacus was responsible for killing Ross, and he wanted Ross to come clean with his mom that he did it. I don't know. And that's a good point, Grandma Anna. She may not have believed it unless she heard it from him. Do you think that Ross knew that Dacus was his son? Because after all, they were hanging out together. And remember the scene in the car where he ended up taking him to that truck stop, and he was really angry when he got back in the car, and he was so nonchalant, and he kept calling, the girl a B word, and kept, saying, well, she liked it. Do you think that Ross knew that Dacus was his son? I don't either. I don't think that Ross knew that. I agree with you, Grandma Anna. Do you think that Ross would have behaved differently had he known that Dacus was his son? I don't think so either. Because apparently, he raped Holly 20 years ago. And here we are 20 years into the future, and he's still acting like an arrogant jerk. And I agree with you, Jen. I think he only cared for himself and obviously didn't care for others and how they felt. So, yeah, I don't think it would have made a difference. I think if he'd have known, I love your answer, Grandma Anna. Excuse me. You can't put lipstick on a pig and think it's something other than a pig. I agree, Deborah. Wasn't that hilarious? I think it would have, if he'd have known that Dacus was his son, I think it would have made him even more arrogant. Because then at that point, I could see him, yes, exactly what you're saying. He would have badgered him to have sex with the hookers. I think he would have played it up even more, to make him be more like him since he is his son. So I think you've hit it on the nose, Grandma Anna. I agree, which is sad. All right. So going back to the conversation between Holly and Dacus, Holly truly demonstrated what a mother's love is like. Excuse me, ladies. And I got very teary-eyed when she did, Jen. I got very teary-eyed when she said that he was the answer to both her prayers, that she'd only prayed 2 times. And he was the answer to both of her prayers, that she would not be alone and that Ross would be punished. And so, very correct, Grandma Anna. She has unconditional love, yes. And I got a little emotional because she's not alone, because she has him in her life. And then he's the one that basically took care of her rapist and ended his life. So what about Dacus? Tell me what your thoughts are on him right now. So we know that he's the one who's killed Ross. And he basically did it because, one, what he did to his mother and produced him and made him feel like he was going to be just like him. Then he's still witnessing, even though he didn't witness what happened to his mom, he's still witnessing this awful, awful behavior, and he's not changed. So Dacus's love is unconditional too. So did you feel sorry for him? I mean, what was your take on? Do you felt like he was justified in his actions? I just felt bad for both of them because, I mean, clearly he's going to have to, pay for the crime he's committed. But then there's a lot of healing that's going to have to take place between him and his mom because, now he's going to prison and he'll be alone. His case would be plead out due to mental illness. That's possible. His mom is feeling guilty. She thought she was protecting him by not telling him. No, he wasn't justified, but Dacus is seriously mentally ill. Yeah. And that's a sad thing. I mean, because basically, if the rape happened 20 years ago, then that puts Dacus being, well, about what, 19 and a half? Because, you got to figure you're 9 months. So he's somewhere between 19 and 20 years old, and he's going to jail. So and then my last thought on there was, why did you think Katie went to see Detective Fales? And of course, we've already talked about that, to get questions on her mom. It was a sad story. It was. But true to form, going back to Walt and his knowledge of people and places and cultures and circumstances, he has such a way with people. Like, when he has to pressure you to get an answer out of you, he has a tactful way of doing it. And he comes across all gruff, but he also has the ability to be tender when he needs to be. And I do think he's his own worst enemy, though, when it comes to Katie. But again, I think he's a father trying to protect his daughter. And as we all know, parenting doesn't stop just when they become an adult. All right. Anything else about that episode that anyone wants to mention, or that they really liked that we didn't touch on or didn't like? The only other thing that I might mention is I just continue to love and enjoy kind of the comedy that takes place between Vic and Walt. I mean, some of the best lines come out of conversations between those two. Henry does have funny sayings, and I'm glad you brought that up, Roseanne. because I was just mentioning between Vic and Walt, but again, going back to the whole turkey and the Thanksgiving thing, that was funny. He's a father protecting his daughter, but he's also a friend protecting his friend. Oh, very good point. Very, very good point. All right. Do you think Katie thought Walt killed the guy? I do. I do, because it wasn't until this second episode that we watched for this week, which would have been episode 3, when Walt confronts Henry. So it's pretty much kind of saying that Walt didn't kill. Let's see. I still wonder what gift Liz sent to Walt. That's one of our questions that we talk about. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Yes, Grandma Anna. At this point, I'm thinking it is Henry. And actually, I have a comment on that too. So we'll hold off on that a minute. All right. Let's see here. Make sure my... All right. Why do you think Katie reached out to Henry to let him know that she was safe? And do you think that she knew Henry would tell Walt? Tell me what you think. I agree. To let her dad know she was okay without having to call him. Yeah, because right now she don't want to talk to him. That way she wouldn't have to talk to Walt. I agree with y'all. We know that she's upset with Walt, but do you think that she understands that he was trying to protect her? Or do you think she's going to forgive him? What do you think her thoughts are right now on her dad? I mean, clearly she's mad because she's gone to Denver. She's meeting with Detective Fales. She is having him show her where her mother was killed and showing her the reports. All right. I do hope she forgives him. She wants the truth and he won't tell her. I think she understands now that Walt's protecting Henry. So, Grandma Anna, you think that she's aware that it was probably Henry that killed this guy? I think they gave us his name. I can't remember. Roseanne, I think you're being kind to us. You might know the answer. You might have seen it. Katie had a strange look on her face when she saw the murderer's picture. She did, didn't she? But I'll be honest, my first thought was that she may have thought that it was her dad. And you're right, Jen. Henry never said he did it. He just told Walt to have faith. Let me see if I can find my notes on that real quick. No, he hasn't. Because I'll tell you, when Detective Fales said to the other detective that walked in and said, "What was that all about?" He said, either she's here for my prime suspect or she's my new best friend. And so my thoughts went that he feels Walt might have been the killer, even when he was trying to confront Walt when he came to visit him. I'm trying to find in my notes. Oh, here it is. Henry said Fales wouldn't get anything useful out of him if he came to talk to him. So it's fine if he comes to talk to him. And then he questioned Walt's faith. And then I put a question mark. What do you think Henry meant by that? So who knows? Maybe Henry got somebody from the res to do it, because there was something else. Oh, where did I write it? Right here. Henry made the comment, a good woman was murdered and a bad man is dead. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So let's take a poll. How many thinks it was Walt? How many thinks it's Henry? And how many think it's neither? Well, in the beginning, you know, they keep showing Walt getting his back stitched up by an Indian woman, and Henry's looking on. And so until this moment, I thought it was both of them together. But if I had to lean towards one, I would say Henry, but I'm with you, Jen. I think it's neither of them. But who it could be, I don't know. We have a mystery on our hands. All right. So let's look into this episode. All right. So, Robbie, we need Scooby-Doo. Yes, we do. We do. We need Scooby-Doo, don't we? Grandma Anna, you bring so much smiles to my face. All right. Robbie, this is the guy in the very beginning of the episode that fell on the bike. What do you think his I love you. Jen, we just all get our Scooby snacks and we'll solve this mystery. What was Robbie's purpose in the beginning? What do you think was going on there? Because clearly he was not riding where he said he was. Hey, Dana. And that's a good point. I do think Walt thinks it's Henry and Henry thinks it's Walt. And that's why I think it's neither. I think neither one of them did it. But the question is, who done it? It's like playing Clue. We do know that whoever did it snapped the guy's neck. And let me ask you this. Why do you think Katie wanted to see the guy's face? I know we're getting off of the other storyline, but why do you think Katie had a need to see? And yes, Grandma Anna, to the other question, he was trespassing with a dirt bike, and that's how the body was found. Closure, Jen says. I'm with you, Grandma Anna. I think she wanted to see if she knew the person. Or at least recognized him. I agree with that. But Jen, I also think you're right too. Because all this time she's believed one thing about her mother's death, and now she's learned something else. And where she thought she had closure, she really didn't. So this is also helping her to have that closure. So I think those are both good answers. All right. Why do you think Marco's brothers reacted the way they did when Walt told them that their brother was dead? Do you think there was anything suspicious behind that, or do you think it was just a natural reaction and they were in shock? Because, I mean, we've seen the episode, so we know who killed him, but... Or do you feel it was just drama to make us think that the brothers were guilty? Jen says, I don't think they liked him that much. Natural reaction. Yes to all. Well, clearly, they kind of made fun of him. They gave him a nickname, and I don't really remember what they called him, but they didn't care for his choices. They weren't excited about him trying to marry this girl that they considered a foreigner. Certainly wasn't happy that, well, I don't even think at first they knew that he was trying to sell the land. But in the end, though, was it Sal? Was that the older brother's name that Walt arrested? He told Walt, if you think I'm upset about the land, you're wrong. Because his brother meant more to him than the land. Yeah, they weren't close. He did keep that from them, that he had married her. Because he knew they wouldn't approve of it. But even though they weren't close, I do think they cared for him. Just because of the way he reacted in the jail cell. Why do you think Ferg was defending his reason for being in the newspaper picture with Branch? Because remember, it was laying on his desk, and Walt walks up, He was the baby of the family. And you see Ferg look down at the paper like, oops. And then later he's in Walt's office and he starts defending that he didn't realize that that's what was happening. Well, I agree. I felt that he felt guilty. And he wanted to make sure that Walt knew where his loyalty stood. I agree with you, Jen. He didn't want Walt to think he was endorsing Branch. So this is kind of a sidetrack, but how do you think the other deputies feel? How do you think Ferg and Vic feel about this running for sheriff between Branch and Walt? Who do you think they want to see be sheriff? Do you think they want it to remain Walt and their little family dynamic stay the way it is? Or do you think they want Branch? I agree with y'all. I think they really want it to stay the way it is. It's clear that Vic, even though she's only been with him now about maybe 7 months, 8 months, that she clearly has a respect for him. And Ferg does too. I agree with you too, Roseanne. And I don't know, even though he doesn't talk about it much, I just think Branch's demeanor is kind of like, yeah, this is happening to Walt. But deep down, I think he truly has a lot of respect and admiration for Walt. And as we mentioned before, he's only running to gain his father's approval. All right, so what did y'all think about Jeremiah? Jeremiah is the guy that brought Rosa and Marcus, what is his name, Marcus, together and married him. What did you think about him? Yeah, I don't think Walt's worried about it either. And I think Branch's dad is forcing him to run. The love peddler. Yeah, I think Branch's dad wants Branch to be sheriff more for Branch's dad's own ego, not really for what's best for his son. And yes, excuse me, I think Jeremiah is a sleazy guy too. And I'm not so sure he was on the up and up with all of that. I just kind of got this feeling that he was definitely manipulating Rosa a little bit. Gotta love that sarcasm, that humor. All right. Are we still buffering or do I have everyone? Okay. Good, good, good. Yeah, he was folding her undies. Well, I'm just glad you're back with us, Deborah. Yeah, I had to eat real quick between my 8 o'clock live and this one. I know y'all get tired of seeing me eat. Although it'll probably still happen on occasions. Why do you think Marcus was selling his portion of the land? Why did you think Marcus was selling his part of the land? And if he was going to sell it, why do you think he didn't consider selling out to his brothers? I agree, Roseanne. I think he wanted money for a better life for him and Rosa. And remember, he's not even told his brothers about Rosa to please his new wife. And so, yes, he told her that he would sell the land and he would take the money from the land and build them a new house. I agree. He didn't want them to know. I'll tell you, one of the things I picked up on when Vic and Walt first walked through Marcus's house, Vic made the comment that there was not even any medicine or food. And then when Jeremiah said that they had gotten married for a month, the first red flag went up because I was like, well, if they were married, they had to have been living somewhere else because there was no food in the house when Vic and Walt went through. Of course, later we find out that she was staying at the motel. All right, let's talk about the part where Jacob and Branch are talking, and Jacob talks about all the money, $100,000 he's invested in Branch's campaign. Why do you think that Jacob is investing in Branch's campaign? I'll admit I was kind of surprised to learn that Jacob had. And remember, Jacob's on the he's on the council, the city council. Jen, I think you nailed it right on the head there. I agree. I don't think he wants Walt as sheriff because Branch can be controlled. I definitely agree with that. That's a good observation too, Roseanne, that when the casino is built, it'll be protected by the law. And you as well, Grandma Anna, because he knows that he can get Branch to look the other way. I agree with you. And Walt cannot be manipulated like that. I don't even think Walt is crazy about the casino coming in. Yeah, I don't think it's because he likes him. I think it's more what they were saying, that he can be controlled. He'll protect the casino, look the other way. Because Branch is nowhere near passionate about being a sheriff as Walt is. And Walt is definitely all about what is right. Yes, Deborah, I do. I think he would be used more as a pawn by Jacob. All right. All right. So that leads into the next question. Branch is the guy you'd love to hate. Yes. So why do you think when Branch is talking to Walt, excuse me, if you'll notice, he chose, because he's so cute. He is cute. Why do you think Branch chose not to mention Jacob's name when he was talking with Walt? He referred to him as an official of the logging company. Why do you think he purposely left Jacob's name out of the conversation? Branch is the type that will either go straight or you will read about his crimes, right? I agree, Jen, because if you mention Jacob's name, then yes, I think eventually Walt would learn that he's backing he's backing Branch. And of course, I mean, it would also make things really awkward on the day-to-day basis right now, because technically Branch is still a deputy under Walt. Yeah, clearly Walt and Jacob, then again, not many of the people on the res does Walt have a good relationship with outside of Henry. But yeah. And I do think that Branch is trying to stay on the down low about who's supporting his campaign. Although, I was going to say Walt's got to be wondering where it's coming from. But on the other hand, too, I don't think Walt cares. I think Walt is, can't think of the word I'm looking for, confident enough that he's still going to win by a landslide. I'm looking through. We've already discussed some of this stuff. All right. When it came to the hemlock that was used to poison Marcus, Walt said that poison is a coward's way and that it makes them patient and sneaky. I don't know. Maybe I watch. All right. What does it say? Which totally amazes me. Branch should have resigned before he ran. Cities don't allow. I'm not sure where that last part was going. So I'll give you a minute to see if where were you going with that? Cities don't allow what? I forgot what I was going to ask. Oh, about the hemlock and poisoning. I don't know if it's because I just watched too many cop shows, but as soon as they brought up the poisoning and the hemlock, cities don't allow employees to run for office. And does that hold true, like in a rural place like where they're at in Wyoming? I don't know. So what's your thought on that? So what I was going to say about the hemlock and the poisoning, immediately at that point, my radar went up that it was perhaps the killer was a woman. But I was leaning more towards Rosa because I was beginning to think that maybe, just maybe, she actually had something going with Jeremiah. And in order to get Marcus out of the way, they're married, so she would inherit his land. So Jeremiah and her would get the land. Okay, Deborah. She says it did for her brother in Northwest Colorado. Okay. All right, Grandma Anna says, no, because I live in a rural town and anyone can run, but not everyone can win. Okay. So yeah, I was thinking, okay, so it was Rosa. She did it. She had the motive and the means so that now she inherits his land, and now her and Jeremiah will have it. The last person I would have expected would have been his sister-in-law, which I didn't catch her name, but that really surprised me. Did that surprise anyone else that it was his sister-in-law? Her name was Anya. Thank you, Roseanne. Amaya. Amya. Yeah, it surprised me. I really, really thought it was going to be Rosa. But when Walt had Rosa in his office and she was talking about everything and she was crying, I think Rosa really loved Marcus. I do. So at that point, too, I was like, either she's a great actor or she really cares about him and it wasn't her. And at that point, I was trying to reel through my mind what other women could it have been? And I still never remembered the sister-in-law from the festival. So it took me by surprise. And another thing I wrote down here, and put though, why do you think that Jeremiah was so convinced that Rosa had nothing to do with Marcus's death? And it was Ferg who discovered that hemlock and elderberries were similar. Yes, it was Ferg who figured that out because he is such a Boy Scout. Yes. And then I found it funny how Walt used the elderberries to make the sister-in-law feel like, I love Ferg too. Think it was a hemlock. And she wanted to get to the hospital right away because she knew. So in that moment before they revealed it, I did figure it out because of her reaction to the elderberries, thinking it was hemlock, but I was still shocked. But I do think Rosa loved him. So Roseanne, you're saying she was most likely with him. Do you mean like as an alibi or to confess? You think? Do you think that Rosa and Jeremiah were together then? Because I got the feeling that she truly cared about him. She called him a good man and she was crying. So in my mind, I ruled her out. I took her off the suspect list. Okay, got you. Yes. Walt did use the elderberries to make her confess. Because he made her think it was hemlock since they do look similar, other than the berries. Roseanne, he is lonely. Wink, wink. All right. So the last question that I have is, why do you think that Vic finally gave Walt the gift from Lizzie? Why do you think Vic finally gave? I missed that. Did he see it in the drawer? So I missed that. So he did see it in her drawer? Oh, he was looking for something. I missed that. How did I miss that? Well, I am glad y'all said that. I thought it was because I forget who they were talking to. Oh, Jeremiah. When Jeremiah told him, I don't see a ring on your finger. And Walt said, but I'm in a relationship. I thought then that's when Vic felt guilty. And that's why she gave it to him. So I completely missed him seeing it in her drawer. So I am going to ask you one more question then. So because Walt said to Jeremiah that he was in a relationship, and Henry made the comment to Walt that Lizzie was at the Red Pony earlier waiting for him, do you think that Walt considers himself in a relationship with Lizzie? Okay. Deborah says, but she doesn't think he realized what it was. And he did ask Vic, how long ago did she drop it off? And of course, Vic leaves saying that was her phone ringing. So she doesn't answer it, but no, we haven't seen her. I don't think he really does yet either. Do you think they'll end up in a relationship? Do you want them to end up in a relationship? Jen says, I want it, but I don't think he's ready. Deborah says no. Roseanne says, then the storyline changed. I don't think Walt is ready yet. I do think she's what he needs. She's got that quirky little upbeat personality. Deborah says we're buffering again. All right, let me know when I have everyone. Let me know when we're back. Can you see me? Roseanne says it's good. Jen's still here. Okay. Okay. Well, hopefully Deborah will get back with us. Oh, good. Deborah's back. I think she's quirky enough that she's just what he needs, but I agree with those of you that say he's not ready. And I also agree with who said it? Roseanne. I do think it would change the storyline because with Walt being single, it kind of keeps him focused more on the job at hand. But also he's got things he's got to work out with Katie before he can think about a relationship with someone. He still has the past living in the present, and he's got to he's got to work on that first. So, all right. Any part of that episode that we didn't discuss that somebody wants to mention? She could be his side piece. Yeah, I don't think he's much of a side piece person, though. I just feel like he's either an all in or all out. But who knows? And his wife, too. Grandma Anna says she thinks that Walt has a thing for Vic. See, I think it's the other way around. I feel like Vic has something for Walt. I think Vic has feelings for Walt. I think Walt's kind of clueless, as most men are. But I do. I think he's got things he needs to resolve first with his wife's death and with Katie before he can think about a relationship. But Jen says she doesn't think either way about Walt and Vic. Yeah, I think Walt is a little bit clueless. But and who knows? Maybe again, we've talked about this before. Maybe Vic is just kind of overprotective, like a father figure. Because I'll bring out that Walt seems to be very in tune with the people in his town, and he's very knowledgeable. And if I were working under someone like that, I would be in awe and have deep respect for them. So, good night, Grandma Anna. Thank you for joining us. What is that? David Mackey, the Deaf Killer. Ring a bell. All right. So was there any other part of that episode that anyone wanted to mention? You have that name in your notes. The Deaf Killer rang a bell. I don't recognize that, David Mackey. Unless it's something coming up. So tell me, did you like it better tonight as more of a discussion? Or do you want to go back to the Q&A? So kind of give me that feedback real quick. So Roseanne, you're saying that you liked it better as a discussion. All right. So that's one vote for discussion. I was waiting to see if anyone else had an opinion. I do agree with that. Everyone had more info to give. Because see, I would have never have figured out, to be honest, that he saw the package, the gift in her drawer. I completely missed that. And as detailed as I have been in my questions, that shocked me. True. Sorry, I know I'm just sitting here. I'm just trying to think what would be best. To do it like we did tonight, or the questions? Which do you enjoy more? I guess is what I'm asking. Now you make me feel like I'm in the same conversation with my husband about what we're going to have for dinner. Whatever you want is fine, dear. True. I feel like the way we did it tonight, though, it gave y'all more of an opportunity to be a little bit more expressive, I guess. And I actually crocheted tonight. I added almost 3 rows to my blanket. All right. Which is pretty good because I haven't done a lot of crocheting this week, not feeling well. Well, as always, this is what I do know. I am continuing to enjoy every episode. And I feel like with each episode, not fast on Q&A, but discussion input is as good. And I do agree with that, Deborah. But I feel like with each episode, excuse me, we're getting to know the characters a little bit better and kind of can start to predict how they're going to respond to situations. Again, I continue to be amused, especially by Vic and Henry and their comical sense of, like, they have like the best lines, I think, out of all the characters. All right. Well, I don't see anything else coming in about the episode, so I guess we've covered everything. Jen says, I like this a lot. It makes me think. The next best thing would be if there was a way for us to watch them together and comment, but has anybody watched Yellowstone yet? I have not, but it is on my list and it's in our cup. Although we already know what show we're watching next, but who knows? That could be the one afterwards. Don't know what we're going to draw. Is it good? I've heard it's good. I have some coworkers who've watched it. Oh, is it? Whew. Well, we're adults. Oh, do they? Yeah, I don't care for a lot of swearing and stuff, but all right. Well, I think we are finished for tonight. Seems like that went by really fast, but we've been on here almost an hour and 45 minutes. It just seemed to have gone by really fast. I guess that happens when you are having fun, right? So next week we will be looking at season 2, episodes 4 and 5. Yes, 4 and 5. So it did, Roseanne. It went by really fast. So, all right. Well, again, it was a wonderful time together, and I'm excited. I got to actually work on my blanket a little bit and have fun, and I look forward to next week. So I will see you guys soon, and I hope you all have a good night. And we can do that, Jen. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what comes after Call the Midwife. We'll draw it. And we might go over those names again of the movies that are put in the bowl and see if there's any new ones we want to add, and then just take the luck of the draw. So, all right. Well, good night. And Monday will be another episode of the Longmire blanket. Real quick, what does everyone think about the Longmire blanket so far? Are you happy with it? Oh, I'm glad to hear that. So were you happy with the little extra video last week? What do you mean Petra mentioned it on her channel? Oh, sweet. Yeah, my husband saw it the other day and he was like, oh my gosh, that looks great. And I was like, I know, right? So I may have to make another one too. And obviously I'll do it different. Like the colors will be different, just so it's a little bit different. But yeah, so even though I still have a ways until we retire and move to a cabin, that's going to look really nice in our cabin. So, all right. Well, several of you sent me pictures. Excuse me. Oh, and I'm glad to hear that, Jen. And I have not yet to see those, but again, I'm hoping to get caught up on all of my emails this weekend. So thank you for sending the pictures and just keep on sending them. All right. Well, it's definitely time to go. I'm running out of tea. And it seems to really be helping my throat. All right. I love you guys. And I'll be looking forward to those pictures, Jen. Thank you for the ones you've already sent. You and Roseanne, and I've gotten several others as well. All right. Good night, everyone. Take care. Have a great week. And I'll be dropping in Monday with a new addition to the Longmire blanket. And then I look forward to next Friday. All right. Bye.